Hello everyone, welcome to Res Snapper. My name's MJ and this is Snap or Pass, where we look at the new cards coming to Marvel Snap each week. This week it's Bruce Banner. He's a 2/1. When you end a turn with unspent energy, 25% chance to Hulk out. And that means that he will turn into a Hulk, a classic Hulk, a 6/12. In this video we're going to be talking about the Spotlight cache that Bruce Banner is in, all of the archetypes that he's going to fit into, some deck ideas, counters and locations, and everything you need to know. You can use the chapters below if you want to skip to a specific section. But let's just kick into it. Let's punch it in the face with information. Anyway, so the Spotlight caches that Bruce Banner is alongside, it's actually not a bad week. So we've got High Evolutionary as a Series 5 and Ravonna Renslayer as a Series 4. So sort of mid-value. You can only ask for better if they're all Series 5, obviously. And yeah, Ravonna is good. Used in many decks. She's also going to work with Bruce Banner, as is High Evolutionary. Actually, High Evolutionary, a great card for newer players because it unlocks a whole new archetype as well. So this is definitely like a good Spotlight cache week for newer players. And also, I think generally speaking, Bruce Banner is just a lot of fun. He certainly seems like a lot of fun. We'll obviously get more into that. One thing I do want to mention actually is, first of all, if you look at the artwork for this card, you can see sort of Bruce Banner was like starting to Hulk out with obviously his arm going. And there was actually a leak of this token here, of this, like, basically, obviously this is a collaboration season with Marvel Rivals, and he's wearing like the same belt, like it's in basically the same pose. Like, this token clearly was supposed to be the card that Bruce Banner transforms into. I do just think it's variant artwork, and I'm sure it would just be a normal 6/12. The data mined information simply has it as a 0/0. I don't know what went wrong. Clearly something might have gone wrong with the development process for this, because in the developer update video that Second Dinner released, it does show Bruce Banner just transforming into a normal base art Hulk. Let me just get it out there straight away. I think that's a massive shame. I think it's a shame that the artwork for the Rivals season is so cool, and all of the artwork is brand new, and yet this new incredibly fun card does not get this fun, awesome artwork, and instead it will just turn into the base artwork. Like, I think that's a shame, especially as like this is supposed to be like quite a celebratory season, like a really cool crossover with an extremely popular game. And you're transforming into a card which is like 2.5 years old or whatever, that has been out for so long, and that is, I don't know, just not very exciting for me. But I wanted to get that little rant out of the way. It's not really about the card or anything. But anyway, let's move on to the mechanics of the card. I think that the archetypes that Bruce Banner is going to fit into includes the set power archetype. We'll talk a little bit about that more later, but I think it's basically just like a insurance policy. Ramp, of course, generating more energy. That's going to mean you're potentially floating more energy, so Bruce Banner is going to have more chance to actually transform. Patriot is turning into the Hulk, so he's going to get a little bit of extra juice potentially, especially as you're not often doing much on the earlier Patriot turns. It's all about the setup for the end game. Negative, is there a potential opportunity for Bruce Banner in negative? Obviously he flips and becomes cheaper to play, and you're not always filling in your curve too much in that style of deck. High Evolutionary, of course, he's alongside it in the Spotlight caches. And Arishem, you get an extra energy, so you're often not filling in your curve. In terms of the actual details about the card, if you were to play Bruce Banner on turn 2, and you float energy on turns 3, 4, 5 and 6, statistically he should transform. But of course, it is a gamble. This is a gambling card. It's a gambling game. Snap, you know, it's like cubes, isn't it? It's a gamble. You can't rely on this card. Sometimes it will go the turn you play him. Sometimes it's going to take all game. Sometimes it won't happen. Often it probably won't happen. It happens at the end of the turn, the transformation that is. The transformation happens at the end of the turn, so there is an additional opportunity there for you to avoid Shang-Chi. Of course, you're probably playing Bruce Banner earlier in the game than turn 6, so sometimes he's going to transform before. But hey, sometimes you probably will be playing on turn 6, and maybe you'll roll that 1 in 4 those times, and that's going to feel crazy. And I think it's kind of comparable, or at least I want you to get thinking about the location Danger Room, which also has a 25% chance to tick off. Of course, Danger Room is sort of flipped. You don't want the 1 in 4 to happen. With Bruce Banner, of course, you do want the 1 in 4 to happen. But think about how you feel when you play into Danger Room. Think about the consistency of that. Think about how often your cards do destroy. If you feel like, yeah, your cards destroy all the time, maybe you'll have a similar but opposite feeling with Bruce Banner. Sorry, it looks like I'm fiddling over here. I bloody am. Here's Milkshake, the latest addition to the family. So yeah, say hello to Milkshake in the comments. She is cute. Anyway, that's by the by. Pros: potentially a very high value and a very big swing. Yeah, this guy can go crazy. Like when he ticks, it's going to be crazy. It's a 212 and you didn't really do much. You just played something down and you prayed or hoped if you're not, you know, religious. That's weird. I've made like 2 religion references in the last couple of videos. Welcome one and all. Yakama. I think there's like, what's the candle? Just frozen in fear of being offensive. Brilliant. Here's a big, this is maybe the most interesting thing about him, I think, actually. He makes it difficult for your opponent to decide how and where to invest their resources. You play down a Bruce Banner, that is now a potential ticking time bomb that they have to consider. You know, if they've got a way to counter it, of course, maybe they'll try and counter it. But if they don't, what do? They're like, well, I mean, if that ticks off, it's going to be very hard for me to win it. Whereas you can just put a little bit of stuff in there, like a 3-5 or whatever. And immediately you've now got this potential imposing 17 power location, which is somewhere where they'd really have to invest into. So I think if Bruce Banner turns out being better than we all expect, it will be for this reason. Very, very interesting stuff. Cons, however, he's not all rose fields and gallivanting in a daisy-filled meadow with the wistful scent of honey dripping on his fingers as he sexually gratifies himself in a shed. The shed's in the meadow. Oof, that was weird. That was borderline, definitely cut that bit weird. He is catastrophically counterable. Just catastrophically counterable. There's lots of things that could go wrong with the guy, and you're already hoping for a 1 in 4. So adding into that the risk of them having a counter. One of the more popular cards in the game is Red Guardian. Red Guardian is going to eat Bruce Banner up for breakfast. Now, the upside of Red Guardian to you as the Bruce Banner player is you might be playing Patriot, so he'll at least be a 1 power card and not a -1. Yeah, we're clutching straws here. And floating energy to get Banner to trigger theoretically increases the cost. If you are floating 1 energy every turn and trying to get him, and maybe it takes you 4 turns of floating energy, you've actually paid 6 for Bruce Banner. So that's all well and good in a deck that wants to float energy like High Evolutionary, or like you benefit from it another way, like via Sunspot. But outside of those decks, definitely worth a consideration. Like, if you're doing that, why aren't you just making the most of your energy and guaranteeing extra power? So, some very interesting considerations for you there. Let's talk about locations, because there's a couple of nasty ones, a couple of decent ones. Good locations includes Kiln. You can stick him in there and just, I would just probably, like, if Kiln comes up and I had Bruce Banner, I'd probably just stick him in there and be like, yeah, if he wins it, he wins it. If not, fine. And then we've got a couple of locations which generate energy. So Feast, going to be really good. You're going to be able to more easily float energy, especially as that's a perennial location, so you can trigger it multiple times. Your opponent can trigger it for you. Elysium, similarly, going to give you plenty of opportunity to float that energy. Altar of Death, you can feed stuff into it. White Hot Room, try and fill it, especially as Bruce Banner is sort of a scaler. He's going to be able to transform at least, so you can fill the location and be somewhat confident that at least you might get, not confident, but you have the opportunity to get more power in there. And again, this is where the considerations for your opponent are going to come into it. They're going to be like, damn, what do I do with this damn location? This ticking time bomb. Can we come up with like a pun? Ticking time bomb, ticking Chicken tikka masala. Oh, wow. Now we're talking. No, that's sort of irrelevant. What's Eric Bana, right? Edward Norton, Mark Ruffalo. Do any of those rhyme with ticking time bomb? No. Of course they don't. Nothing rhymes with ticking time bomb. And Panopticon, if you play Bruce Banner there and it does transform, then you're going to get a +2. Fine. However, there are some bad locations. Hala, absolutely don't go anywhere near it with Bruce Banner. You're not going to be able to hold that shit down. And, well, actually, I mean, well, to be fair, I mean, if you stick it in there and it transforms, great. Maybe it is worth it for the bands. Worth it for the content. If you're a content creator, if you're one of, like, 2 content creators who watch my videos, in fact, I only know of one who actually does, then, yeah, do that. That's a good tip for you. For you, you know who you are, do you? Don't I? Deep Space, awful. Just nullifying your own Bruce Banner and playing 2 energy to get 1 power or something. Oh god, it's so bad. And Dark Dimension is god, horrific. Obviously just simply doesn't work with Bruce Banner, so I don't think it would even work on the final turn of the game, would it? I'm not sure. I might need to check on that one. Anyway, other counters apart from Red Guardian, who we've already spoken about, Iceman. Iceman might be a key one because the Iceman player might hit something in your hand which you had planned to play. Like maybe think about a magic. If they hit the magic, you're then like, oh, okay, what am I doing on turn 3? I'm sort of scrambling. And then on turn 4, I'm playing the magic, but I'm not floating energy. So just makes things very complicated and difficult, in particular for Bruce Banner. Shang-Chi, obviously, if Bruce Banner transforms into Hulk, Shang's going to feel bad. Now, you could back up Bruce Banner with a Cosmo, just to protect him. Bruce Banner isn't going to be affected by that himself, so yeah, maybe. But again, like, do you want to be chasing this 1 in 4? Do you want to be spending more resource to be able to protect it? I'm not sure you do, especially as if you're playing Cosmo, what are you playing it on turn 4 and then floating the energy? Ah, interesting. And Red Hulk directly gets stronger when you float energy. So, or you know, if you as the Bruce Banner player, when you float energy, your opponent's Red Hulk gets stronger. So let's move on to the key synergies and deck ideas. So we've spoken about some of these synergies, but let's speak about some more. Sunspot, obviously slurping up all that extra energy and just generally going to feel like probably the most natural fit alongside Bruce Banner. Ravonna is going to make Bruce Banner cheaper. Patriot. I say Patriot because I do think that Bruce Banner may actually work very well in a Patriot deck. I think the 2 cost spot in Patriot decks, I'm sort of 1 and 2 to be honest, they're just like, there's not that much you want to play. I mean, Dazzler is a good one in the 2 cost spot in Patriot. But what else? I mean, on 3 you're often wanting to play Patriot. Maybe you do want to play a Cosmo. But I mean, I guess conversely, you're not always floating energy in a Patriot deck. So I think it's a bit com si com sa, isn't it? I mean, you could maybe stick Sunspot in there. Maybe something like Frigga could be interesting. You could try and get some interesting lines going. And then towards the end of the game is your big stuff. Like maybe you don't even run Blue Marvel, so you're not doing anything on 5 and you're ensuring you're floating on 5. Maybe do like a Patriot and then a Doom or even just White Tiger. I don't know. Everything I'm saying is I just think everything I've said is bad, but I still think Patriot might be alright with Bruce Banner. Maybe like a ramp Patriot deck. There you go. Speaking of ramp, how about Lunar Snow? Lunar Snow is going to obviously generate more opportunity to float energy. I've put Mr. Negative here. We spoke about it a little bit at the beginning, but I'm not 100% sure about Mr. Negative. Sometimes the curves are a bit awkward, so it helps in that regard. But you're not always going to be wanting to draw Bruce Banner as a flipped card. There's obviously much stronger options you could get, but I don't know. It's almost a similar conversation to the Patriot thing. What are you doing in the early turns of a Mr. Negative deck? And then finally, High Evolutionary, probably one of the best homes for Bruce Banner. But let's talk about some decks. We got, first of all, the set power deck. Now, I spoke about it at the beginning of this video, this set power idea, as essentially being insurance to Bruce Banner. If you can play out your Agent Venom and make Bruce Banner be a 3 power card, and then you play that later in the game, obviously the upside is still the Hulk, and that's the thing that you want. But the downside is like a 2-3. I guess kind of not the end of the world. And the rest of the idea of this deck is that you've just essentially got nothing that is high in cost. So your highest costed card is 3, and you've got some really big potential scalers at the 3 cost. So Cassandra Nova, we've got Sage here, which can go even higher if they get tagged by Agent Venom. We've also got Havoc in here, so we're going to be limiting the energy that we're spending. Even if Havoc was a late turn play, like consider this, a turn 6 play could look like Silver Sable +2, Havoc +4, Bruce Banner could be a +12. It could be a huge power play, so you could even do that. You've also got other good scalers like Sunspot and Thena in here, so it could be a very interesting deck. Moving on to our high evolutionary option. This is a pretty classic high evolutionary deck, but it's skewing towards, actually it's not even that classic, it's got quite a few changes, but it's skewing more towards the duplicating your hand vibes. I haven't gone too much down the affliction route, otherwise I would have put Abomination in. Although actually it does have Wasp and Cyclops in. So maybe there could potentially be room for Abomination in this. Maybe you could tweak it to include that. In fact, I got Hulk in there. I don't know. Anyway, you want to duplicate the cards in your hand, including She-Hulk primarily. And hey, how about double Bruce Banner? What about you play Luna Snow on 3, then Moon Girl on 4. You get a couple of Bruce Banners down on 5, and you're floating energy, so there's a chance that they could trigger. You could then magic. Actually, what you would have to magic before then. Anyway, you can extend the game that way if you wish to. There's other ways to ramp in this as well via Penny Parker. Basically, guys, maybe you want to duplicate Bruce Banner, maybe you want to duplicate She-Hulk. Could be interesting. Something a bit different from the normal high evolutionary. Probably fine. And then finally, this last one is probably my favourite deck here, just because I think it's a bit unpredictable and a bit weird, and just has some really cool lines. I've called it a banner year. We've of course got Bruce Banner. We've also got some early game plays like Sunspot and Ravonna. We have got Electro in here to ramp, and then we can basically do later in the game Ravonna sort of pseudo ramps as well. But then your late game looks like something like either a White Tiger into a Zola into like an Odin. That could be interesting. And then in amongst all of that happening, maybe your Bruce Banner ticks. Hey, don't discredit or discount Ravonna into Bruce Banner into, is it like 1 or 2 turns later, Arnim Zola. Either duplicating the Bruce Banner, or by that point you might be duplicating the Hulk. It could be interesting. So there's lots of interesting lines. We have got a little bit of protection for our higher costed, our higher power cards. Obviously, the potential of Bruce Banner turning into Hulk via Cosmo and armor. Cosmo as well, just in general potential protection and disruption from your opponent's plays, and armor for the Sunspot as well, because that could get killmongered quite easily. So yeah, interesting deck. I don't think it's the strongest, but I think this is the most interesting one here. If I was picking up the card, which I won't reveal if I am yet, you can't pick them all up though, can you? I'm nearly out of drink. If I was getting him, this would be the first deck I'd play. In terms of star ratings, I think overall he's a 3.5 star card. Don't think he's that good, but I think he's above average. I think at the very least he's interesting, and as you'll see, I've given him 5 stars for fun. That is skipping over 3 stars for the archetype. Like I don't think he's an important piece in high evolutionary, for example. But yeah, 5 stars on fun. I feel like, how is it the amount of Dolphins that are going to release when you do actually tick that Bruce Banner over to the Hulk? And by the way, I'll say it again. The amount of Endolphins that it would have been if it was that damn lovely token that, for whatever reason, we're just getting the base art. I'm still angry about that. 7 slides later. And then competitive. Do you know what? I think he might be a bit surprised. Well, I guess it's surprising to me. Surprising to me from a competitive nature. Like, on the one hand, you might be throwing away 2 energy or 2+ energy because of the floating. But if he does tick over to a 12, you'll just be laughing. Like, you'll just be so happy. So I don't know. And like I say, come back to it again. Your opponent not knowing how much to commit to that location is going to be the most interesting thing, I think. But ultimately, is he a snap or pass? Guys, you know that I don't bust out the pass very often. But I'm not sure on this guy. I think he's one of the think he's kind of one of the weaker cards this season, if not sort of the weakest. I think he's potentially really fun, but I think he's just going to be difficult. What do you think, though? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new, please subscribe. I never say this, put the bells on. Like, tick the bells are coming in on Christmas time. Yeah, so, because it is Christmas, do put the bell on. Tickle my bell. So, yeah, I'll see you next time.